Um, oh, a quick thing about the homework, like, when you have those the statement, it says to reconcile, the balance.
Yeah.
When you like download that paper,
Worksheet.
the worksheet, it's I don't know, like I clicked on that box, but it's really hard to type in the box. So I kind of just wrote it, on the side.
Let's see. I'm gonna go there right now, real quick. Sorry, I probably already had it open somewhere on here, but I can't.
I mean, I don't know if there's a way to do it, but I tried, and then my son looked at it, and he's like, I don't know. So I just kind of wrote.
Let me go there. Let me go there, and you can show me. I can show you.
Okay.
So, for instance, this week. So here we have homework. Can you see my screen, by the way?
Yeah. Yeah.
Number 4. So, and you talk about this worksheet. Where's the worksheet for this one? Oh, there is no worksheet for the homework.
No, I mean like the check-in assignment. That's what I'm talking about. Yeah, the check-in.
All right, yeah, the check-in assignment is after you go work through the homework, then you want to do the check-in.
Right. So, yeah, I worked on that yesterday, and I turned it in.
This worksheet right here is what you're talking about?
Yeah, like when you download it, and then like when you go to, right in the little boxes where it says like for the check-in accounts.
Oh yeah. Just you can print it out. You can handwrite it in if you want. If you want to type it in, I don't think you can, because this is not a fillable document. Does that make sense?
Yeah, like you can click on it, but you can't actually go into like where it says dollar sign and type it.
It's just a picture. It's just a picture. So you either need to just recreate it down below, somewhere on here. You can if you download this, you can add space. It's a Word document, so you should be able to.
That's what I did, and I kind of just wrote right there where it says, where you have all the information. I kind of just typed in the numbers there underneath. Yeah. I don't know if
you can do that. You also could, if you want to type in these boxes, you should be able to use the text box feature in Word, and you can actually add a text box. So here, I'll show you real quick how to do that. But if you I'm going to download it. So I just downloaded it. Then I'm going to open it. Where is it? There we go. Downloads. So I'll open the assignment. Okay, see how there's little boxes here?
Yeah.
So if you come up to insert, you can insert a text box. It's right here, right? No, that's text. Yeah, text box. See that feature?
Uh-huh.
And then you can just go like this, and you should be able to put a, maybe it ain't working. Oh, should be able to. Yeah. It's a is this a picture? Sorry. Should be able to do a text box. Well, let me do it differently. Hold on. I'm going to do a draw text box. There you go.
Mm-hmm.
So see how I drew a text box?
Oh, okay.
You can type your answer in.
Oh, okay.
0.98.
Okay.
And then you can just do that for each one. So you have to go to insert, and then text,
and then text box,
and then draw a text box. And then
I'll do that for the next one, because I already turned this one in, so I'll do it for the next. Yeah.
That's just an option. So.
Yeah, well, actually, that's easier. Yeah, that way it's a little neater as well, because I just kind of wrote it on there.
Right.
Around the box,
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. Okay, let me get out of here. So, all right, so let's go back to, all right, so are you guys still seeing my screen right now? Can you see the book?
Yes.
Okay. So I don't know how far back, but if I go to the homework assignment, I'm gonna try that one more time. Hold on a second. Let's just do it this way so we stay consistent. Is I'm going to go ahead and go to our class again in Canvas. I'll leave this open from now on. And I'm going to go down. And this week, I'm just going to cover some of the homework stuff. And if it's super simple for you, let me know. But oops, sorry, I selected the wrong thing. I need to select modules. And I'm going to come down to homework for chapter 4, not graded. And then if you notice here, can you guys still see my screen?
Yes.
So section 4.4 and 4.5 is what I'm asking you to review. and then section 4.6 and 4.7. So you really don't need to do anything other than those. Okay. So if you go back to the book, then I have here 4.2. So I said 4.4, 4.5, 4.6, 4.7. So you don't really need to know any of this. I'm not going to really be questioning you on it, but this is just how to fill out a check. So if you don't know how to do that, you might want to review that. I know I have some young students that never had like a checking account before, and maybe they don't ever use checks, so they don't even know how to sign them or fill them out. So that it gets into kind of how to endorse a check and all that kind of stuff, and how to fill out a check. And I'm not going to cover any of that on any of the quizzes or exams or anything, but there might be a few of these where you're preparing a deposit slip. And this is kind of the old fashioned way of doing it. Nowadays, we just take a picture of our check, right? But before, we actually had to fill in. So like, let's just say you go into the bank and you want to make a deposit, and you have your paycheck, and you have your $500 paycheck here, and you have another check, maybe you work 2 jobs for $237.55, and then you had some change laying around, so you want to deposit that, and then you had some cash, and so you want to deposit all this into your account. Maybe you have some checks coming in, you want to make sure you have enough money in there to cover it. So you would just fill out the deposit slip with putting your currency, which is all your dollars and cash, then your coin, then the different checks, how much each one of those are worth. And then you're going to go ahead and add that all up. And then you're going to, in this case, they want to take $100 out cash from all this money. So they're going to go ahead and pull $100 out. So they're going to deposit $774 into their account. And typically you go up to the teller and you would give them this slip with all the money and all the checks, and then they'd give you $100 back, which is kind of weird because you're going to deposit 100 up here, right? $121 in cash, but you're taking out another 100, taking out 100. So you could have just, taken the 100 out and just deposited the 21 and not taken any cash out, because you would have taken it before you did the deposit. But if you want a record of that money, that's a nice way to do it. And anyway, so it gets into doing that. So down here, it gives you another slip to fill out. It gives you another one to do. So June 4th, 127 in currency, $3.47 in coins, and then $358.89 and $121.68 for checks. So again, all the currency goes here, the dollars, all the coins go there, and then the 2 checks. And then if you have more checks, maybe you have 15 checks, if you turn this paper over, it doesn't show you that, but on the back, there's a whole list. You can add a bunch of other checks. And that's why it has here a total from the other side. So like if this isn't enough space, you can actually utilize the back of the deposit slip, and you can add it all up and then add that amount here. And then that would be all added up for your total deposit. So anyway, this one gives you an assignment to do. We're not going to do it, but that's 4.4. There may be a few questions on your quiz that deal with filling out one of these forms. And it's pretty self-explanatory and fairly easy to do. And then moving into section 4.5, this is dealing with your checkbook registry. Now, this is interesting because they're giving you a different kind of a check. This kind of a check is often used in companies, and that's why they're giving it. Usually your personal checkbook just has a check, but this one actually has a stub that goes along with it that the check number matches. And so what they're having you do, and this is, I've never done this personally, but what they're having you do is they're having you fill this out as kind of a running balance as you go. So every time you write a check, you write in your current balance, you write in any deposits that you might have made that week. In this case, what's the total of those 2? And then you take this check number, which is $183.72, which you've also written at the top of this stub. And you're going to basically do the math on that to where you have now a total new running balance of $1357.77. So that balance gets forwarded to the next check that you're going to fill out. And so that would be written right here on the next check. So then when you fill out the next check, whatever changes happen to your account, you're going to keep record of on this stub. And that's the I guess more of the business way to do it. We're used to doing it more like this in a checkbook. And again, a lot of students, because we don't use checkbooks very much, they have no idea how to balance their checkbook or balance their bank statement. And that's really the heart of chapter 4, to be honest, is, you have your checkbook and you're writing checks in it and you're making ATM ATM withdrawals and things like that. You should be writing all of that in your checkbook, so that way you keep a running balance of how much money you have in your account, so you don't overdraw too much or write a bounced check. And so this is the ledger that you use to keep track of your current balance. And then at the end of the month, your bank is going to send you a statement. It's going to show you all the checks that have come in already, as well as any kind of electronic funds transfers or any kind of ATM withdrawals that you made that maybe you didn't write down in your checkbook. And then you want to reconcile the two so you get a current balance. And that way you're not, you're not thinking, hey, I got $1,000 in my account, when in reality, there's some, electronic payments that were made that you forgot about, you didn't write in your checkbook, and now you really only have $600 in your account. So keeping a balance of that keeps you from writing bounce checks and overdrawing your account. And so it's healthy to do that. So in this case, as far as a checkbook ledger goes, is you're going to keep your current balance on every page of your ledger. And then in this case, there was a payment made to your MasterCard of $34.60. That was made with a check $450. Then you had another check $451 to Allstate Insurance for that amount, $166.25. And if you notice, what you're actually doing is you're doing the math as you go. So you're taking your $560, subtracting your $34.60 MasterCard payment. Now you have a new balance of $525.40. Then you're going to subtract your insurance payment of $166.25. So that brings your new balance to $359.15. However, you also have a payroll deposit. So you got your paycheck of $340. So that's added to your account. So you're going to add those two together. That gives you a new balance of $699.15. Then you wrote another check at CVS Pharmacy. By the way, you put your date in here so you don't lose track, for $15.50. So you subtracted the $15.50 from the $699.15. Now you have a new balance of $683.65. Then you had another deposit for whatever reason. Maybe somebody gave you some cash, or somebody gave you a check for your birthday, or somebody bought something from you on OfferUp. And so you have a new deposit of $88.62. That's added to your current balance. So now you have a balance of $772. So you can see here that as you're moving through, you're writing in all of your transactions on the left, and then you're doing all the math so that you keep a current balance of $648.12 at the end of this week's long worth of transactions. So that's basically recording those is extremely valuable. So you'll be doing some questions on this, filling out the bank statement. Is not filling out the bank statement, that's one of them. And then 4.5 is filling out your checkbook ledger. And so that's going to be important. So they have you do that. I'm not going to have you do it, but they have you do it both ways. They have you do it on a check stub basis, and then you take that information on the check stub and you move it down into your checkbook ledger. And so you can see here their beginning balance was $14.54 before check number 56 was written. So there's your balance right there. And then here's check number 56, this first line for Paints and Pails Hardware. And actually that's written up here in the check stub as well. $69.97 was the amount. So you just do the math, subtract that from the $14.54. So basically the check stubs is a way of looking at individual transactions in light of your entire account. And then you're going to want to input that. Now, like I said, I never did these check stubs. I just did it right in my checkbook. And that's probably a good enough. But if you want to really have a good accounting, you fill out these stubs as well, and you have a running balance that's always active for your account. So they have you do it down here. This is where you actually will do it. I'm not going to have you do it, but you would be inputting all of these in there. So to start off with, you have a starting balance of $887.45. So you would write that right here in your beginning balance, $887.45. And then this particular check is $137, which is right here. It's March 12th. So you put the date in there. You'd put check number 137 is already there. Then what was the amount? $55.75. So you'd write it in there. Then you'd also write it down here where it says check this item right here. You'd put $55.75. If you had any other changes to your account, like if you made a deposit or whatever, you'd add that in here. You would do your math and you'd come up with your new balance. And again, down here, that same what was it? $887.45 would be here. Your check number 137 would go here. The date, who it was to. In this case, it was to Nathan and David's hairstylists. So that would go here. Then you put the amount of the check. The check was $55.75. You'd write it here, and then you would do the math, minusing that from your balance and then doing your balance forward. And you just follow each transaction through, making sure that you got everything written down so that your ending balance is your current amount of money in your bank account. So that's why that's important for you. And then of course you have other stuff. You have some overdraft fees. Maybe you bounced a check or whatever else, and now you have fees for that. So those are going to need to be deducted as well. So when you get your bank statement, you might see, oh, there was an ATM charge of $2, or there was an insufficient funds charge of $35. So you need to deduct those from your balance to make sure you're staying current in your checkbook of your balance. So that's basically filling out a checkbook. I know that that's probably super simple for all you guys, but just keep in mind that that is, you know, that is helpful. Let me see if anybody comes into the, I don't know if anybody's going to come into the room. So it's just the two of us. That's fine. Anyway, so that's filling out a bank check. I'm sorry. Then they go through a whole set on that. Then filling out a bank deposit slip. You can go through that if you want. There's another one. And then it gets you all the way into filling out your check ledger. So there's going to be a little bit of that in this chapter. But it's not difficult, but just make sure that you're following the process, reading the boxes and filling it out is really the easiest way to do it. And then here's another problem. These are some of the, what I call the review exercises for you to do. So, but this is where we get into the big one, is the bank statement reconciliation. So like I said, you might be writing checks, but you're also using your ATM card. You went to Habit Burger and you slid your card. You went to Walmart, you slid your card or whatever. Well, a lot of those transactions you forget to write in your checkbook, right? Or like I mentioned to you, there might be a fee, there might be a checking account fee that you have to pay every month. There might be some electronic funds that were transferred. Maybe you have an automatic debit that comes out of your account for your gym, and you didn't write that in your checkbook. So your checkbook balance is inaccurate because some of those items have not, have come in and you didn't write them into your checkbook. Or in your bank statement's going to come in the middle. It's going to say you have a certain balance. However, you might have written some checks that are not showing up on your bank statement yet, that have yet to clear. So you've got them deducted from your checkbook, but you don't have them literally taken out of the amount in your bank because they haven't cashed yet. So your balances are going to be inconsistent between your bank statement and your checkbook. And the idea of reconciling it is to take everything that's in your bank statement that's not in your checkbook and make sure you add it to your checkbook, and then to take everything that's in your checkbook and deduct it from the total that's on your bank statement that hasn't cleared yet. And the idea is that you should have the balances exactly the same by the time that you're done. And it really kind of happens in your checkbook. Really, your bank statement's just a statement. It has all the information. So you need to take the information off of that and make sure that you've added that to your checkbook so that the bottom line in your checkbook balance is always the accurate amount of money that you will have in the bank. Your bank statement may say you have $1,000 in the bank, but you might have written 3 checks for $500 that are not reflected in your bank statement yet. So you don't have 1,000, you only have 500 because those checks haven't cleared. Even though they're in process, they haven't cleared yet. And so therefore they're gonna come in and the money needs to be there to cover them. So that's what we get into next, is this bank reconciliation statement. So in this case, what you get is you'll get a bank statement for the month. And this is your bank. A lot of you do online banking, so you're very used to looking at your online transactions. And of course, again, we have credits, which are basically money that's earned and added. Then you have debits, which are things that are going to be subtracted from your account. So if you did an ATM withdrawal, that's going to be a debit. If you mailed a check in, that's going to be a debit. And so you're gonna add the credits and you're going to remove the debits in your checking account. So if I go to the next page, this is preparing a statement of reconciliation. So here's where you have your checkbook balance, and then you have your statement balance over here. And then notice on the right is outstanding checks. So that's where you're going to be writing them. So again, you might have 5 checks that have not cleared yet from your statement. So you need to make sure you add those to your statement and deduct them from the total. So in this case, you would be putting whatever your checkbook balance is. So let's just say your checkbook balance is $1,000, and then your statement balance is only $500. Or let me put it the other way: your checkbook balance is $500 and your statement balance is $1,000. So you're going to add here any interest earned or any other credits. So if you made a deposit, if you got some money that was deposited automatically electronically from your paycheck or whatever else, or maybe you sold some items on eBay. So you would add those. They're going to be on your statement, but they're not going to be on your checkbook. So that would be added here. Then you'd add that to your current balance, and then you would deduct any of your debits. So you'd add up all of the checks, all of the money that you've you know, taken out, all the debits, the money that's taken out, you'd add that here or put that here, and then you'd subtract that from your subtotal. That would give you your new checkbook balance. And then you do the same thing on your statement balances. You're going to add all the deposits in transit. So all the stuff that's maybe not reflected yet on your bank statement. So let's just say you'd write your balance here, but then you'd say, well, I still have my paycheck. I already wrote it in my checkbook, but it's not showing up on the bank statement yet. It's not made it there yet. So you'd want to add any credits that are going to be coming to your account that you've already written in your checkbook, but they're not on your bank statement yet. So you'd write all those here. You'd add that to your balance. That would give you your subtotal. Then the same thing with checks. So anything that has not cleared yet, that's coming. So maybe you have an electronic debit for your gym. Maybe you've got 3 checks you've written. So you'd list your checks here. You could even list, if you wanted to, your ATM debits that are coming. And then you could, you know, add all that up, total it down, and then put that right here as these are the debts that are not showing up on your bank statement yet, but they're going to be. And then you would subtract that from the subtotal that you had, and that would give you your adjusted balance. These two numbers should be exactly the same. Your adjusted checkbook balance and your adjusted statement balance. They should be exactly the same. If they're not, then you've made a mistake somewhere and you need to go back and figure out where that mistake is made. So every month it's really wise to do this, to get all of your items balanced out. And so if you notice here, this is a bank statement dated August 2nd. And then you have your checkbook here as well. And if you notice, for instance, let's go down here. So check number for $450, check number 1209 has come in, right? So this check has been accounted for on your bank statement. So they kind of wash each other out. Then you have a deposit of $500. That's also reflected here in your bank statement. So that's being seen. So that's current. Then your food spot, you wrote a check for check number 1210 right there for $47.75. So that's come in. So basically what you're going to do is you're going to just make sure everything that's here in your bank statement is also here in your checkbook. So if something's missing, then you're going to have to add it, right? So for instance, so let's go through. Check number 1209 is there. The deposit of $500 is there. The check number 1210 is there. Check number the EFT payroll deposit is there right here, right? But notice then check 1212 is there. So that's down here, Hyatt Hotel for $312. Then you had an ATM withdrawal of $350. That's here, down here at the bottom on 7/21. Then you have a deposit of $645.80. That's here, that's reflected here. So far everything, what I would do is actually check them off to make sure they're all there. And then we have a debit card purchase of $430.86. And so that's right here, $430.86. And then we have a service charge of $20. Okay, well, the service charge is not on here anywhere, right? So I got to add that. So I would just go down here on the next page and I would add date 7/30, service charge $20, and I'd put it as a debit, and I would subtract that from the total balance. And then the other thing that's not being reflected here is, notice it goes 1209, 1210, 1212, 1214. So we're missing check 1213, and we're missing check 1211. So these two are not reflected in the bank statement, right? So they're going to need to be deducted from the total balance that you have of 1520. Because notice your balance here is 1520, but your balance here is 1673. So some things are missing, right? Another thing that's missing is your deposit of $550 here on 7/31. That's not showing up on your bank statement. So what you're trying to do here is figure out what's on my bank statement that's not in my checkbook, and what's in my checkbook that's not in my bank statement. And those are the items that you're going to be deducting from one another. And so here we go, them doing it. So see, 1211, 1213 were not reflected in the bank statement. So I added those up and I added them right here. Also, that $550 deposit was not reflected on my bank statement. So I took my bank statement balance, I put in all the additions, the 550, I gave me a new subtotal of 2,070. Then I deducted all the checks that were outstanding. They haven't come into the account yet, but they're coming. And now I have a balance of 1653.18, right? That's for my statement balance. On my checkbook, I already had a balance of 1673.18. So that I didn't have any other credits that weren't reflected on, they weren't on my bank statement, but I didn't have this $20 service charge on my checkbook. So I added that to my checkbook and I deducted it from my current balance, and that gave me a 1653.18. So again, all it's doing is comparing your bank statement to your checkbook, and anything that's in your checkbook that's not in your bank statement, you have to deduct or add to your bank statement balance, and anything that's in your bank statement that's not in your checkbook, you need to add or subtract from the balance of your checkbook. And when you're done reconciling them, your balances will be exactly the same. And so if you ever have two different numbers here, you did something wrong in your problem. So this one gives you another one. This one's North Star. This one's dated March 3rd or April 3rd. And again, you're doing the same thing. You're reconciling all these. So this one you actually have to do. And I'm not going to do it, but because I kind of showed you how to do it already. But again, your balance here is 1725.40, so that's going to go here, 1725.40, and then your balance here for the checkbook is 1798.68, so that would go here. And then again, you're going to look in your checkbook and you're going to find anything that's in your checkbook that's not in the bank statement, and you're going to write those bank statement things, whether they be deposits or debits. You're going to write them in here, you're going to add them all up and write them in, and then you're going to add the credits, and then you're going to deduct the charges or the debits, and then you're going to have a new checkbook balance here. So are you guys following me so far?
Yes.
Have you guys, is this something that's fairly simple for you guys to do? Or do you want me to kind
This is something I did a long time ago.
Yeah, we don't really use checkbooks anymore, so I think eventually this is going to get phased out of this. But you still want to keep a good balance of your account, right? The nice thing in most cases is we don't write checks anymore, right? So we're not waiting for stuff to clear like we used to. And then most of our expenses and charges are done right away, so they reflect our account like right away. So you go out and you make a bunch of charges on your ATM and send a lot of pay a lot of bills, and then you go home and they're already reflected in your bank statement, right, or in your bank account. So we don't really do a whole lot of reconciling anymore, but it's probably good for you to know, at least for now. So anyway, so that's pretty much it.
I mean, personally,
Go ahead.
I was going to say, like, for a personal account, wouldn't really use it, but for business wise, I think it's super important.
Definitely, yeah, you're right, because you are going to be writing probably checks and sending stuff on PO, and you're waiting for money to come in, and so yeah, and that could be very important. Maybe your customers pay you electronically, right? But you want to keep a running ledger of everything. Now, again, a lot of this is also done in QuickBooks. So, like for instance, I run a church ministry. Everything's in QuickBooks. So I just go in and I add all my expenses. I actually have a bookkeeping company that reconciles it for me every month. So they do all the reconciliation. So they get my bank statement and they get my my current balance in QuickBooks, which is kind of like a electronic checkbook. And then they balance it all out every month and they send me my financials, so they do it all for me. If you do it yourself, because you're going to be an accountant, then you would have basically your running checkbook ledger is QuickBooks, you're keeping it all in there. And then, so all of your charges and all of your, all your credits are all put into QuickBooks. And then you get your bank statement at the end of the month. So then you need to sit down with your bank statement and say, hey, have all of these transactions that are in my books, do they line up with my bank statement? If there's anything on my bank statement that isn't been inputted, I need to input it into QuickBooks. Basically the same thing as balancing your checkbook, and anything that's that's not reflected yet in my bank statement means that it's still in transit somewhere, so that hasn't posted yet. So whatever my bank statement balance is may not match my QuickBook balance, but I can do the math and add or deduct those from my bank statement balance, and it should be the same thing as I'm showing in my QuickBooks balance. Does that make sense?
Yes, absolutely.
Everything is, QuickBooks is changed all of this, even for your own personal accounts. You could set up your own personal account in QuickBooks, and you could keep track of all your, the nice thing about that is you can designate what account you want that to go to. Like for instance, you can have a food account or a entertainment account, or you can create whatever accounts you want. And then you can, when you do your expenses, even depositing money into those different accounts, then you can actually view those accounts and go, oh, wow, over the last 6 months, whatever window of time you want to put into search, you can say, wow, I can't believe I spent $6,000 on entertainment, you know, and it allows you to keep a running, you know, designated account for each item that you want. And you can do that all in QuickBooks, even for your personal accounts. So that could be a very powerful tool. Anyway, that's pretty much all the math you'll do on this. There's a few problems on this in your check-in assignment, but the key, I think the biggest problem most students have is they don't know where to put the charge. So that's where they struggle with this. But I think this book is a little easier than the one I used to use on this. But for instance, if you're looking at my screen right now, this person has a bank statement balance of 2,087. So I would write that right here. And then the checkbook showed a balance of 1,493. So I would write that here, 1,493.90. Outstanding checks were these. So I would add these checks over here, 224, and this little outstanding check thing, 224.15, 327.80, 88.10, 124, 122.42. I would add all those up plus a service charge of $80. So I would go ahead and add that all in here, and I'd total that up, and I'd put that in deducting outstanding checks plus the service charge. I would add the service charge, would probably go over here because it's not going to show up on my checkbook. It's only going to show up on my bank statement. So I need to write it in my checkbook. So I'd take that $8 service charge, write it here, and deposits in transit amounted to 1883, 1813.11. So these are ones that are deposits in transit right here. So I'd write 813.11. And there's an electronic payroll deposit of 450 that I didn't show up on my checkbook. So that would go here. And then I would just do the math. And when I got done, both of these balances should be the same. So can you guys see that when I was going through it?
Yes.
All right, so that's pretty much all you need to know for chapter 4. And then this is your, by the way, this is your case study that you're doing right now. So you're basically figuring out which bank is the best one for you to be with based on what their different charges are every month. And I thought that was interesting to do. So really, chapter 4 is when you're being exposed to all that content. So, all right, so I'm going to go ahead and jump ahead then to chapter 5. And chapter 5 is really the only algebra that you're going to be doing in this class. And so it's not really difficult stuff, but it comes down to what we call solving for the unknown, which is usually a variable. A variable is a number represented by a letter. So in this case, there's S. So S is your variable. And in this case, you're trying to figure out, well, what is the value of S? And so that's where you would, figure out what is the value of S. In this case, it's pretty simple. If the product of S plus 12 is 20, then we would just basically minus 12 from 20, and that would give us what S is, right? And that's this is the very basic beginnings of this when we start getting into doing this with, fractions, or doing this with S12 versus S plus 12, but S times 12, it becomes a little more tricky how to solve for the unknown. But that's really what you're trying to do, is trying to find the value of these variables. And these become really powerful when you start doing business problems later on in this chapter. So anyway, so we're going to go through a few of these. I'm not going to work them out. Maybe I'll have you do them on your own. Very important if you don't know algebra. I mean, this is kind of, these all mean the same thing right here. So 5 times y can be 5 times y with a dot, or 5 with parentheses y is the same thing as 5 times y, or 5y is the same thing as 5 times y. So keep that in mind. This is known as a coefficient. So 1 is the same thing as 1w, but you don't usually represent it by 1 because w is 1. Then you have 5y. So this is divided by y, and we'll come back to how to do that in a minute. Usually you'll have to multiply it. So anyway, this is the operations. I'm not going to go through all these because it's going to be more confusing than just to show you how to do it. But the parenthesis is very important. You typically need to solve everything in the parenthesis first if you can. So in this case, it's going to get into this more in detail later, but like 3, 5c plus 4 equals 2, but you need to first break this out to make it solvable. So you'd need to do it just like this. So you would do 3, because basically 3 is going to be multiplied by each of these. So 3 times 5c and 3 times 4. And then those two items would be added together. So the easy way to do it is to break it out just like this. So 3 times 5c plus 3 times 4. And then you would do the math on each of these. That would give you 5c plus 12 equals 2. And then you would continue to solve the problem from there. So make sure that whenever you have a problem like this, realize that 3 is multiplied by each of these different numbers within the context of the parenthesis. And we'll go over that as we get into it a little bit later. So here's what we're going to be basically doing is we're going to be solving these equations. And really the idea is to isolate the variable. So isolating in this case, x. And so 4x equals 15. Again, common sense says we'll just subtract 4 from 15 and you know what x is. But to teach you how to do it algebraically, and then when we get to more difficult problems, this makes it a lot easier to solve, is you would just do it this way. So you would basically take any whole number you can move one to one side of the other of the equals. So in this case, if I want to move this 4 to the other side, since it's a plus 4, I would make it a minus 4. So I would minus 4 here, and I would minus 4 there, and that gives me x equals 11, right? And that's the easy way to do it. Same thing as saying 15 minus 4 is 11, but in this case, we just subtracted that 4 from both sides. Now, if this was a negative 4, x minus 4 equals, then we would add the 4 to both sides. So then it would come out to x equals 21, right? Or excuse me, 19. So that would be if it were minus, but because it's plus 4, we're going to minus it from both sides. And that gives us our solution. So, right, so you can check your answer by putting in what you got here, x equals 11. So add the 11 where the x is and do the math, and it checks out. So here's an example, w plus 10 equals 25. So what we would do is if we're adding it, in this case, we would subtract it. So we're going to subtract 10 from this side, and we're going to subtract 10 from that side. So it should be, when it's done, w equals 15, right? And there's your answer, w equals 15. Are you guys familiar with this already?
I mean, you're going back a long time for me, but yes, vaguely.
Yeah. So you get it. Here we're checking the answer proof, and then the next question is q plus 30 equals 100, right? So again, we're gonna subtract 30 to move the 30 over to the other side. So we're gonna subtract 30 from both sides. So it's basically q is gonna equal 70. So all we did was we moved that over to the other side. I always call it moving to the other side. All right. In the business world, equal signs is invented. I'm not going to get into all that. I'm just going to keep working through the problem. So, all right, so here's using a minus instead of a plus. So just the opposite's going to happen. As you notice, h minus 20 equals 44. So you would just add 20 to both sides. So in this case, these two would cancel each other out. And then 20 would be added to the 44. So h minus 20 equals 44 means h is 64. And so here's your check. You can check to make sure down here. So again, a minus 8 equals 40. So in this case, because it's a minus, we would add 8. So we'd add 8 to this side, they would cancel out. We'd add 8 to this side, it would become 48. So a equals 48. Pretty simple. And we check that out again. 48 is the answer. Again, L minus 3 equals 7. So again, we would do a plus 3 on this side and a plus 3 on that side. That would basically mean L equals what? Well, the answer is down here, 10. L equals 10. All right, then we get into a little more difficult ones. So this one is showing you 9 times t equals 36. And so rather than moving, you got to separate the 9 and the t. And the only way that you can do that is to divide. So in this case, to isolate the t, you need to take the 9 and you need to divide both sides by the 9. So you would draw a line under both. You'd put 9 under the 36, 9 under the t. These would cross out, 9s would cancel. So t would equal whatever 36/9 is. So if you do the math on that, it comes out to 4. So t equals 4. And then you can go back and check 9 times 4 equals 36. So whenever there's a multiplication process, you need to divide. And that's what it was trying to show you up here when I went quickly through it. when it said wherever you're going to add, you're going to subtract. Whenever you're going to subtract, you're going to add. Whenever you're going to multiply, you're going to divide. And whenever you're going to divide, you're going to multiply. And so that's what we'll see happen next down here. This is, again, just basic stuff. So if we come down here to 15L equals 75, then we're going to divide both sides by 15. So these two would cross each other out. And then the 75 divided by 15, if you want to do the math on that, comes out to 5. So again, the 15 is both, since this is a multiplication, both sides are divided by the number that is multiplying by L. So 15, cross those two out, 15 over 75, if you divide those two equals 5. And then you can check your answer. Same thing here, 16F equals 80. Again, we just divide both sides by 16. And the answer would be 5, 16, 16. Those cross out, so F equals 80 over 16. If you divide those two, it comes out to 5. And you can check your answers. All right, and then the last one is when you have a fraction. So notice M fifths equals 4. So how do we solve that? Well, whenever there's division, you do multiplication. So in this case, what you would do is you would take the number in the bottom and you'd multiply both sides by that denominator. So 5 divided by, or excuse me, 5 times M, 5 equals 4/5. Again, here's the 5. So we just basically multiplied both sides by 5. So whenever there's a fraction or division, you multiplied both sides. Well, when you do that, these two cancel out. So M equals 4 times 5, which M equals 20. And that's how you isolate the M in a fraction. How you isolate the variable in a multiplication is you divide. The way you isolate a variable in a division or a fraction is you multiply. So you multiply both sides times 5. So we'll look at the next one. Z8 equals 2. So we just need to multiply.
But why was it multiplied by 4?
Say again. 4 was the number already there, equals 4.
Why would?
Say again.
Oh, because it's right there. Okay.
Yeah, the 4 was already there. So M5 equals 4. So what's M? We're trying to solve for M, right? So I just multiply both sides by 5, by the denominator. So 5 times M5, you cancel each other out, means M equals 4 times 5. And 4 times 5 is 20.
Gotcha.
So I basically just multiply both sides. So I'll show you here. Z8 equals 2. So multiply both sides times 8, right? So this side over here will cancel out. So Z equals 2 times 8. What's 2 times 8? 16. So Z equals 16. So whenever there's a division or a fraction with a variable, in this case is Z, you're going to multiply both sides by the denominator. So that's what we did. We multiplied 8 on this side, but they canceled out. And then we multiplied 8 on the other side, and it made 16. So again, C9 equals 9, right? So we're going to multiply both sides by 9. So we're going to add 9 here and 9 here. And we're going to cancel these two out. So C equals 9 times 9. What's 9 times 9? 84, right? Or 81. So there you go. C equals 81. And you can check your answer down there. So this is the simplest form. Now we're going to get in a minute here. We're going to have combination problems where there's moving and there's multiplication, subtraction, division, and addition. So here you go. So now we have a little bit longer equation, right? 7R minus 5 equals 51. So in this case, the first thing you want to do is deal with the whole numbers, right? So in this case, since it's minus 5, we're going to move the 5 over. So in this case, we're going to add 5 to both sides. They cancel out. And then your 51 plus 5 is 56. So 7R now equals 56, but you're not done. Now you need to divide both sides by 7. Why is that? Because we're multiplying. So whenever there's a multiplication, 7R, we resort to division. So we're going to put both sides over 7. And then these two cancel out, 7 and 7. And this is 56 over 7. So R equals 56 over 7. And if you do the division on that, it comes out to 8. So R equals 8. And then you can do your proof if you want to put it back into the formula. So all you're doing is the same steps. You're just doing multiple steps in one problem, right? So if we have 2n plus 14 equals 50, then all you're going to do is you're going to move the 14 over. So that's going to be minus 14 on both sides. They'll cancel out. Then minus 14 from 50 is 36, right? So it should be 2n equals 36, but I want to isolate the n, so I need to divide both sides by 12. So this would be 36 over 12, and that would be 12n over 12. Those two cancel out. So the 3612, n equals 3612, or n equals 3, because 12 divided by 36 is 3. So all you're doing is the same thing. You're just doing it with multiple steps. Same thing here. 3w minus 4. So we're going to first move the whole numbers over, get them over there. So then it's 3w equals 22. Is that right? No, 30, because it's minus. We're going to add it. So plus 4 to both sides. So 3w equals 30. And then we're going to divide both sides by 3, because this 3w, we're going to isolate the w. So you have to divide it. So we're going to cross those out. And that gives us 3 over 30. So w equals 10. W equals 3 over 30, or w equals 10. All right, do the same thing here, but this time you're doing it with the multiplication. So we are going to first move the 20. So we're going to move the 20 over. So since it's plus 20 equals 34, we're going to minus 20. So that equals 14. So x2 equals 14, and then x2 equals 14. We're going to multiply by each side by 2, because that's what we do to solve for the variable. So we're going to multiply 2x by 2, and we're going to multiply 14 by 2. Of course, these two cancel out, so x equals 14 times 2, which is the same thing as saying x equals 28. You can go back and you can figure out whether that's true by punching in the number. So here's some more, another problem that way. F3 minus 6. So first thing you do is move the 6 over. So we're going to add 6. Since this is minus, we're going to add 6 to both sides. These two will cancel out, and this will end up to be 8. So F3 equals 8. And then we're going to divide each, or multiply each side by the denominator. So 3 times F3 equals 8 times 3. These two cancel out. So F equals 8, 3, or F equals 24. So they're really fairly simple. Why don't you guys do me a favor and work out this problem right here. Z5 plus 15 equals 24. And tell me what the answer is.
Uh, 45.
Okay, is
Z equals 45.
that what you got as well? Sorry. Maureen, did you get the same thing? Are you working it out? I don't know if she's still with us. So the answer is 45. Yeah, good job. All right. Trying to give me a second here. I'm trying to log into my office hour. It starts at 10. I'm just going to do it on my phone, and then if somebody logs in, I'll be there. It might be the same call we're on. I'm not sure if I use the same thing or not. So I'm going to go ahead and just select that. And if I join here, then great. If I don't, it says I'm in there. Let's see, hold on. Okay, well, we'll see who shows up. They might show up in this meeting. All right, so that's that. Then the problems start getting a little more deep. So see here, there's an example of 5 times 3x plus 6 equals 20. So in that case, what you're going to want to do is you need to first lay the problem out. So 5 is going to be times both 3x and 6. So you might want to write this 5 parentheses 3x plus 6 parentheses, or plus 5 parentheses 6. equals 20. So we'll look at that. So here's your problem, right? So we took the 5, 3x plus 6, and first you had to write it out so that it could be solved. And so you take the 5, 3x plus the 5, 6, so you'd multiply those. So that means 15x times 30 equals 20, and then you would continue on with the math here. You would move the 30 over, which would be minus 30. Let's see, does it solve it? It doesn't solve it, does it? Well, we'll just go on to this one here. So same thing here, 8, 2k minus 4 equals 48. So we would multiply both of these by 8. That comes out to 16k minus 32 equals 48. Then we want to isolate. First thing, isolate is the full whole number. So we would basically, in this case, add 32 to both sides. That gives us 80. And that leaves us 16k equals 80. Then we're going to divide both sides by 16. And that gives us k equals 80 over 16, or k equals 5. And then you can check your answer down there. So you're basically
Can the answer be a decimal?
No.
Never.
It could be a decimal if it's not a if the math doesn't come out equal,
Okay.
it could be a decimal. Yeah, it'd be a whole number
Okay.
plus a decimal, yeah. Or a remainder. Here's same thing, 5g. So again, you'd multiply 4 by both of these, so it would be 4 parentheses 5g's plus 4 parentheses 6 equals 64, and then you would do the math on that. You'd move the 24 over, then you would divide both sides by 20, since it's 20g, to isolate the g, so it would be 40 over 20, which is g equals 2. So it's just following the same process, and then you can prove it right here. Same thing here. You're gonna so whenever you have something in a parenthesis like this that's being multiplied by a single number, you got to break it into 2 separate multiplication actions. So that's what you do here. So this time they just did it without drawing it out. 18h, and then 6 times 5 is 30. So negative 30, and then they did it. Actually, in this case, it's not a negative number, it's just a minus. So then you move the 30 over, you divide by both sides, and you've got it done. And then you can check your answer. Now, what happens if you have multiple x numbers? Like in this case, you have 2x, 5x equals 12 plus 2x. And you just treat it the same way. You're just going to treat this as a whole. So because it's not a y and it's an x, you can actually add those together. So in this case, rather than moving the whole number, you're trying to isolate the whole number. So you would move the 2x over to the other side. And you do that since it's plus 2x, you would minus it from both sides. So you'd minus 2x and you'd minus 2x. Or actually you could, just add it as that. And then it's obviously going to be minus to 3x, which is 12. So 3x equals 12. And then you'd continue to solve by dividing both sides by 3. So x would equal 12 divided by 3 is what? 4. So x equals 4 would be the answer.
4.
So basically you're doing the same thing. You're just trying to put what do they call them? Equations on the same side. So here's an example, solve this one. Right, this one happens to be long. So 4c plus 7 minus c equals 25 minus 6c. So to solve this equation, you need to begin by combining the 2 terms on the left that contain c. So 4c minus c equals 3c. So you want to move that 3c over to the other side. Is that what it? Oh no, it's first having you, subtract what's on like side. So it's 4c minus c. So you can subtract the 4c minus 1c equals 3c. So now your problem is rewritten. 3c plus 7 equals 25 minus 6c. And so here you have the same thing. So you're going to move the 6 over to the other side. Since it's a minus 6c, you're going to add it to both sides. So this is going to cross out, and it's going to become 9c plus 7 equals 25. Now that you've got those all together, you want to move the whole number. So 7 is going to go to the other side. So 7 minus 25 is 18. So now 9c equals 18. Then you do the math as far as dividing the multiplication, and those cross out. So then c equals 18 over 9, which c equals 2. So all you're doing is combining them now. And it's not difficult. Just treat it like it were one number. And you can do the same thing on the next one. So I'll let you guys do this next one here if you can. First thing you're going to want to do is you want to move probably either, you can move either one. You can move the 4x over to the other side. That's probably what I would do. So first, move the 4x over. So it would be plus 4x to both sides, which would make it 5x plus 3 equals 18. And then you would move the 3 over. That would be minus 3. So that would be 5x equals 15. And then I would take the 5x and I would divide both sides by 5. And that
So
would,
x equals 3.
yep, that would be 5. Those two would cancel out. So x would equal 5 divided by 3, which would be sorry, yeah. Is that what I said?
15 divided by 2.
15 by 5, sorry, would be 3. So
No, 15 divided by 5 would be 3. Sorry.
sorry. I was drawing a blank on the number on the bottom. It was 5. So yeah, so there's your answer, 5. So you divide both sides by 5. Those would cancel out. So then 15 divided by 5 equals 3. So you isolated the x in this problem. Yeah, it got a little more complex, I understand. So here's one. It's even more fun. Look at this guy. Can you guys see that? So the first thing you would do in this long one is you would multiply, you would break out this parenthesis. So it would be 9s plus 8 minus s equals 2 parentheses 2s plus 2 parentheses 8. And you can see that down here. Actually, oh, sorry, I didn't show you the answer yet. So that's what you would do, and then you would do the math. So we'll just look at the answer so we can see. So the first thing they did here was they did the math before. They didn't break it up, they just did the math on each one. So 2 times 2s equals 4s, 2 times 8 equals 16, and then this remained the same on the other side. So then they had this equation, and they wanted to isolate it. So what they did here was they moved the 4s over. So they got rid of the 4s. So it said basically then it would be minus 4s, so it would remain 4s plus 8 equals plus 16. So they drew it that way. Then they went ahead and moved the 8 over. So then it became 4s equals 8. Then they divided both sides by the 4, which meant s divided equals 8 divided by 4, s equals 2. So that healthy problem right there gave them their solution of s equals 2. Now it's funny because we're doing all this math. And these are complex, I know, but when you start doing the word problems, the challenge isn't doing the math. The challenge is knowing what math to do. And that's what we kind of move into next here. So let's see, hopefully nobody's joining my Zoom meeting. I have an office hour at 10, so I'm on my office hour on my phone if anybody logs in.
I was going to say, I'm going to have to sign off right now.
Yeah. Okay, that's fine. I'm going to continue to record it. I'll go through a few more problems and then we'll be done.
Perfect. And then you'll post the link to the recording.
Yes, I will. You can just scroll ahead to this point. So
Perfect. Well, I appreciate you. Thank you so much.
welcome. Have a good day.
You too.
So this last one here, this not last one, but this is when you start looking at word problems, it becomes challenging to know how to write them out, as I just mentioned. And so here's a little table you can use. I think it's kind of more harmful than helpful in my opinion, but some of the problems will definitely utilize these words. And this is how you know what action is being described. To me, it's a little confusing. So for instance, if I scroll down here, a number increased by 18, right? So x plus 18, or that would be the way you write it out, or 9 times w, that would just be 19w. And that's where we have problem is in the word problems, as you kind of start losing, how do I write this out? So here's an examples, 19 times w, 19w, 12 less than s minus 12, 2/3 of y is 2/3 y. So writing it out can be a little challenging. So there is some of those problems, but I don't put a whole lot of emphasis on it because to me, it becomes almost a little more confusing than it needs to be. And then here's some other ones that you can work through. So I would just work through those on your own if that's something that you are going to be challenged with when it comes to some of the word problems later on. But I think a lot of them are a lot easier than you think. So I'm going to just scroll ahead to some other ones, the kind of the solving word problems. So this is where you really start to put into practice these equations, and it can be a little tricky when you're, again, writing out the word problems. So it says here, setting up and solving word problems, make sure you really read it through a few times so you understand exactly what they're talking about. Take inventory of what's mentioned, any variables, dollars, peoples, make a plan to create the equation, work out the plan, check your solution. So here's an example, wax sales plus wash sales equals total sales. So let X equal the amount of wax sales, and then wash sales. So wax sales plus wash sales equals total sales. So again, X is the 2. And I don't understand. I'm a little lost myself on this one. Hold on. Oh, sorry, I missed the rest of the problem. I have to read the problem. On Tuesday, Double Bubble Car Wash took in $360 less in wash business than in wax business. If the total sales for the day were $920, what were the sales for each service? So here's the table. Let X be the amount of wax sales. And then remember, wash sales were less, $360 less. So X minus 360. So X is the amount of wax sales. But since wash sales were 360 less than wax sales, we'll do X minus 360. And the total that they earned was 920, right? So we'll write the problem, X representing wax sales and X minus 360 representing wash sales, and those together equaled $920. So I would, again, do the math I've been learning how to do, move the 360 over. So in this case, since it's minus 360, I'm going to add it to both sides. So X plus X equals 1280. And because these are both X's, I can merge them into 2X. 2X equals 1280. Divide both sides by 2, and X equals 640. But that didn't solve my problem. That just told me how many wax sales I had. But since wash sales were 360 less than wax sales, I need to subtract the 360. So my wax sales were 640. My wash sales were 280. If you add those together, we get 920. So here we're taking a word problem, we're moving it into using these variables to solve the problem. So here's another one. Don and Chuck are salespeople for Security One Alarms. Last week, Don sold 12 fewer alarm systems than Chuck did. Together, they sold 44. How many did they each sell? So again, if Don sold 12 fewer than Chuck, we'll let Chuck be X, and we'll let Don be X minus 12, right? So it should be X plus X minus 12 equals 44, because together they sold 44. So again, that's what I did. I did X as Chuck sales, X minus 12 as Don sales. So this represents Chuck sales, this represents Don sales, and they equal 44. And then I just did the math, and it came out to X equals 28. So Chuck sold 28. Don sold 12 less than Chuck did. So he only sold 16. If you add those two up, it comes out to 44. So are you with me still?
Yes, I'm listening.
Okay. So here's another problem down here. Example number 12, Dynamic Industries spends 1/4 of total revenue on employee payroll expenses. If last week's payroll amounted to 5,000, what was the revenue for the week? So in this case, it's going to say 1/4 of total revenue equals the payroll expense, right? So we would take 1/4 of revenue is the week's payroll of 5,000. So that's the way I wrote it up. Let R represent revenue for the week, and then 1/4 of the revenue equals 5,000. That's what it says. 1/4 of the total revenue. So that was 5,000. So again, I'm just going to draw this up as a mathematical equation. I'm going to divide both sides by 4, right? So in this case, I'm dividing 1R by 4, and I'm dividing 5,000 by 4 because the 4's cancel out, and 1R is the same thing as saying R. R equals 20,000, because that's what 5,000 divided by 4 is, or multiplied by, sorry, not divide, multiply. Because it's a fraction, it needs to be multiplied. Both sides are multiplied by 4. So You can check your answer. All right, so we'll do this one together. 1/3 of the checking accounts in community bank earns 2,500. If accounts of this type, how many total checking accounts does the bank have? If 2,500 accounts are of this type, so it's saying 1/3 of checking accounts. So we're going to do 1/3 C for checking and equals 2,500 accounts. So there you go. 1/3 C equals 2,500. I'm gonna do the math here. So 1/3 C. I'm gonna multiply both sides times 3. That equals 7,500. So their total checking accounts are 7,500 because only 1/3 are interest earning. So they have a total of 7,500 accounts, and you can check your answer. All right, let's see. I'm not going to do that one. Here's another one. United Dynamics has 25 shareholders. If management decides to split the 80,000 net profit equally among the shareholders, how much will each one receive? So we're going to use P as our profit per shareholder. So P equals 80,000 divided by 25. Since it has 25, basically it's the same thing as dividing the two. So the net profit per shareholder is 3,200. You can plug that in to make sure it works. And this is the same thing here. If a Century Manufacturing fills an order of 58 cartons of merchandise weighing a total of 78.2 pounds, what is the weight per carton? You're just going to divide the two, really, but they're using it as an equation for you. All right, here's a good one. This is one that you might find on your quiz. Local Best Buy sold 144 TVs last week. If 5 times as many LCD models compared to plasma models sold, how many were sold? So 144 was the total, so that's going to be your equals 144. And then 5 times as many LCDs as plasma. So we'll let X equal plasma, and we'll let 5X represent the LCD models, since it was 5 times as many plasma. So plasma represented by X, and 5 times X is the LCD models, right? So here we go. X is the plasma models, 5X is the LCD models. X plus 5X equals 144. So 6X equals 144. Divide both sides by 6 means X equals 24. So we sold 24 plasma models, but 5 times as many LCD models. So 5 times 24 is 120. So we sold a total of 144. 120 of them were LCD and 24 were plasma models. So you see how the word problem is working its way out, right? I'll do this last one and I will call it a day. A dollar discount department store sells 3 times as much in soft goods, such as clothing and linens, as it sells in hard goods, such as furniture and appliances. If the store sold on Saturday $180,000, how much of each category was sold? So we're going to call your hard goods X, and we're going to call your discount, your soft goods as 3X, right? 3 times as many soft goods as hard goods. So again, we're gonna show it as X being hard goods, 3X being soft goods, and we're gonna add those two together. And then 180,000 was your total sales. So how many were each? So we're gonna add these two together to make it 4X, and then we're gonna divide both sides by X to isolate the X, or by 4, sorry, and that's gonna be X equals 180 by 4. So X equals 45,000, 3X equals 3 times 45,000, which is 135,000. So you add those two together, it comes out to 180,000. And you can check it if you want proof to it. Let's see. So I think I can do one more just because I think we're nearing the end here. It says, yesterday, Vista Valley Recycling picked up a total of 45,000 pounds of material. So that's going to be my equals 45,000. If newspaper weighed 3 times as much as aluminum cans, and aluminum cans weighed twice as much as glass, what was the weight of each material? Well, since glass is the base that they're basing everything off of, we're going to call glass X. We're going to call aluminum 2X because it's 2 times as much as glass. And we're going to call newspaper 3X because it's 3 times, oh, actually, it is 3 times 2X. So this one's going to be written up 3 let's see, newspaper 3. I wish I could write it out because I can't. I'm not writing it out, but we'll just follow the reasoning. Let the least smallest be X, so that's the glass. The larger ones, multiples of X. By doing this, you avoid having factors in your equation. So again, X equals pounds of glass, 2X pounds of aluminum, there it is, and let 3 times 2X equals the newspaper. So that's how we're going to write the problem up. X plus 2X plus 3 times 2X equals 4,500. So we're going to do the math on that. That's X plus 2X. And then 3 times 2 is 6X. We're going to merge all those together to 9X. So 9X equals 4,500. We're going to divide both sides by 9 to isolate the X. And that's going to give us, it's not showing up on here, but that's going to give us our answer, which X equals, it looks like 500. So again, how many glass collected? 500 pounds. How much aluminum was collected? Well, that's going to be 2 times X, which is 1,000 pounds. And then newspaper were 3 times as many as aluminum. So we're going to take the 1,000 that the aluminum represented and times that times 3, that's 3,000. So there's your 1,000, your 100, and your 500. That comes out to your 4,500. So this is where it becomes valuable. You know, when you might say, well, I sold 3 times as much as Mary did this week. How much did I sell and how much did Mary sell? If we sold together 5,000, you know, then you can work out the problem and figure out who sold what. So that's pretty much it. I think there might be a few more, a little bit more complex. Oh no, ratios, and we don't get into ratios. I don't do ratios in this class. So that's pretty much it. I'm not doing any problems on ratios. So you just need to do the ones I just showed you. So that's pretty much it for these. I know I didn't work.
Okay.
Yes. You have a question?
No, I was saying okay.
Okay. Yeah, so that's pretty much it. I mean, I'm not doing any ratio problems, so there's nothing, should be nothing there for that. Let's see if there's any. I know there might be some more complex problems, and I'm not really working them out. I'm just kind of going through the homework this time. Next time I'll probably do more math because it's going to be required, but I think this time it's not really required that I do a whole lot of math. I think I'm just showing you what the book states and kind of explaining it, hopefully adding a little bit of content to it.
Quick question on the test that's coming up this week. Are there going to be any of these complex word problems on there?
There will be a couple of the last few that I covered, you know, about selling TVs and sold this many plus that many. Yeah, there'll be a few of those in there in the quiz and on the, I don't know if the exams due this week or not, but yeah.
Yeah, it's this week, end of this week.
We'll be doing a few of those in there. There's a couple of those in there, and they're very much like the ones I just covered. So,
Oh, okay.
yeah. There shouldn't be anything more difficult than that, but you're welcome. You know, I assume the students are going to use the book, you know, when they do the problems. So they're not too difficult. Let's see if I can, yeah, they're not really, I was going to go see if there's any other problems I can work out, but
the other chapters that are coming up for the next few weeks, are there more word problems in those, or are they more like equations or things like that?
no, business math is gonna mostly be word problems, to be honest.
So there's more word problems. Oh, okay.
There'll be more word problems. Actually, here's another one I didn't do. So REI Record sells 35-liter backpacks for 110. This one's a little more challenging because you have dollar values here, so it becomes a little bit more tricky because you're dealing with total dollar value. So this one is a little harder.
Yeah.
But it sells 35-liter backpacks for $110 and 18-liter backpacks for $70. So if a store sold 40 backpacks yesterday for a total of 3,400, how many of each type of backpack were sold, and what were the total dollar values?
Yeah, that one's a little confusing because there's a lot of numbers.
Yeah. So it says the sum of the price of each item multiplied by the quality of each item if the total sales is 3,400. So again, it's the total sold was 40. So we need to know how many of each. I'm trying to remember how to write this. I'm going to have to get some help. So let X represent the more expensive item, thereby avoiding any negative numbers. So let X, the quantity of 30. Okay, so it's going to be, I'm trying to remember before I look at it. It's going to be, they're both going to have the 40 on them. Oh, well, let's look at it. Let X quantity of the 35-liter backpacks, since they're the more expensive ones, $110. and let 40 minus X. There you go. So once we know what those are, then we minus it from the total. So 40 represent whatever's left over, right? So price times quantity. So we were going to do 35-liter backpacks are 110X. And then price times quantity of 18 liters. So 70, where did we get the 70 at? Oh, because they're $70 each, sorry, $70 each, times 40 minus X. So whatever X is, these are going to be what remains. And this is where it becomes tricky. So here's how you draw your problem up. 110X plus 70 times 40 minus X equals 3,400. And this is where it really becomes handy. So going down, we're going to do the math. So remember, this 70 has to multiply by both. So 70 times 40, 70 times X. 70 times 40 is 2,800, 70 times X is 70X. And then we're going to basically merge these two together, right? The 10X minus 70X,
Yeah.
40X.
40X,
40X plus 2,800 equals 3,400. And then 40X, you're going to divide both of these by 40. Wait, sorry, we need to move the 2,800 over.
Yeah, subtract the 2,800 out of the 3,400, right?
And then the 40X equals 600. I'm going to divide both sides by 40. So X equals 15. So what did we say X was? The quantity of 35-liter backpacks. So 15 of the 35-liter backpacks were sold. And then if 40 minus X, so 40 minus 15 equals 25. So 25 of the 18-liter backpacks were sold. Now that you've calculated the quality of each pack, then you need to find the dollar value. So 15 of the $35 ones, they're 110. So it'd be 15 times 10. And then 25 times 70. And so there's your total sales for the 35-liter backpack, total sales for the 18-liter backpack. And that's then those two totals are going to equal your 3,400. Now, what's cool about this is that we weren't given any numbers. We were just given the total sold and how much money was earned. You know, so it seems almost like magic in a sense, because how did you know that that many of them were 35-liter and how many were, you know what I mean? And the problem solved that for us. So it's pretty interesting. Because you might say, well, wait a minute though, if I sold 3 of these backpacks, wouldn't that equal the same as 1 of these, you know, or 2 of these would equal 1 of those? But it didn't. And maybe it's because the dollar value is perfect, what 340. So the only way that it would work out is exactly the way that the math showed it. So it's pretty interesting how that worked out. So we were able to solve all that, and that's where these become valuable, you know, this kind of problem in mathematics, because if you can I think the challenge is knowing how to write it up, because I haven't been challenged with that, and I've done this.
Yeah, that's like, well, you have to read it a few times to kind of like really understand, you know, like which one is X and which one is, you know, what number.
Once it clicks, you get it. It's like, oh, okay, I get it now, you know. So, but it's always easier, like he said, in this case, you know, because the dollar value is higher for the 35-liter one, that's better to use as your base. If it were lower, then you're going to have a negative number, and it's going to make your problem difficult to solve. So start with the highest dollar value item, make that X. And in this case, the total sold is going to be for these other ones is going to be 40 minus X. That represents the 18-liter. And then in this case, since it was 110, so it's going to be 40 times 110, right? 110X, sorry, X was representing the 35-liter packet. And then 70 is the dollar value of the 40 minus X, which represents the whatever's remaining, the 18-liter. So this formula here represents the 18-liter, and this formula here represents the 35-liter.
Right.
Once you did that, you had the math. So
yeah, then you just kind of work the problem out and you solve it.
that was a challenging one.
Yeah, that one was a little bit confusing, but I mean, the rest of them are, I get most of the stuff. It's just those kind of complex word problems are a little bit.
Well, if you do end up getting a really difficult one like that last one, you know, feel free to go to the book and help get you the help, but make sure you understand it, you know, that you've got your mind around it. Because like I said, it's been a while since I've done any of this. Most of my teaching has been just I used WebAdvisor not WebAdvisor, but a WebAssign for a while, which did everything for you. And then I decided to move everything into Canvas to make it a little easier, and I can have a little more control, but then I have to refresh myself those more complex problems. So anyway, all right, let's see. Oh, that's a business problem to solve. So that's pretty much it. Oh yeah, so you can go, if you want to work out some other ones, you can try working through the assessment test at the end of the chapter here. So this is some basic ones. I don't know if your book gives you the answers like mine does, but
It gives, yeah, I think it gives like every other answer. It doesn't give all of them, but it does like, maybe it's only odd or something.
they're found in the back in the appendix. I have that listed in the homework. In fact, if you go here
Okay.
to the homework, let's see. I think if you go to the homework, I tell you which page to find the answers on. So let's see. Oop, sorry, that's YouTube. Where's that? Oh, sorry. Right here, homework. So yeah, so it says answers in Appendix B.
Okay.
For the reviews, the answers in Appendix B, and then for the assessment test, they're found in Appendix A. But it's only the odd questions in the assessment test. So
Okay.
if you start working through it. So. All right, I'm going to end the recording.